Stop for just a moment, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you understand love, destiny, and the hidden forces shaping your life. Have you ever felt that someone you've never truly known has somehow influenced your journey? Have you ever wondered why certain heartbreaks protected you? Why unexpected endings made you stronger? Or why your life seemed to move in a direction you never planned? Most people dismiss these moments as coincidence. But what if they aren't? What if the greatest act of love has been happening in complete silence beyond your awareness, hidden within the deepest layers of your own mind? Imagine discovering that while you believed you were walking through life alone, an invisible process was preparing both you and your soulmate for a meeting that could only happen when the time was right. Not through magic, not through fantasy, but through the quiet transformation of the human psyche. What if every painful lesson, every lonely night, every closed door, and every unexpected delay was never meant to break you, but to shape you into the person you needed to become? Today, we are going to explore a powerful idea that has fascinated great thinkers for generations. The possibility that your soulmate has been doing something extraordinary for you in secret all along. And once you understand this hidden truth, you may never look at your past, your present, or your future in the same way again. Most people imagine love as something loud. They expect dramatic confessions, constant messages, grand gestures, and undeniable proof that someone cares. Yet, the deepest forms of love rarely announce themselves with noise. They often exist in silence, hidden beneath ordinary moments that seem insignificant until we look back years later. What if the greatest expression of your soulmate's affection has never been something you could see with your eyes? What if it has always been woven into the invisible fabric of your personal growth? There are acts of love that leave no photographs, no written records, and no witnesses. These are the invisible acts of love, and they possess a quiet power that transforms a person's life without demanding recognition. The human mind naturally searches for visible evidence because certainty feels safe. We want tangible signs that someone is thinking about us, choosing us, or caring for us. But the unconscious speaks a different language. It communicates through patience rather than urgency, through presence rather than performance, and through subtle influence rather than dramatic display. Sometimes the greatest gift another person can unknowingly offer is not their immediate presence, but the space that allows you to become stronger on your own. What appears to be distance may actually be preparation. What feels like silence may be creating room for self-discovery. Every challenge that forced you to become more resilient, every disappointment that taught you self-respect, and every lonely season that encouraged you to understand yourself more deeply may have carried a hidden purpose. Love, in its most mature form, is not always about making someone feel comfortable. Sometimes it quietly supports the conditions that allow another person to grow into their fullest potential. This kind of love asks for nothing in return, because it is not driven by possession or control. It respects the natural rhythm of psychological development, understanding that real connection cannot flourish between two people who have never learned to stand independently. Invisible acts of love often reveal themselves through timing. A relationship that did not happen when you desperately wanted it may have protected you from becoming emotionally dependent. A delayed meeting may have allowed both people to mature before their lives intersected. An unexpected ending may have removed distractions that prevented authentic growth. At the time, these events appear painful and unfair. Yet, with enough distance, they often reveal themselves as necessary turning points. The unconscious mind has a remarkable ability to guide individuals toward experiences that shape their character, even when the conscious mind resists them. The greatest transformations rarely happen while everything is easy. They emerge during uncertainty, forcing hidden strengths to awaken. Invisible love does not always feel comforting in the present, because its purpose is not immediate pleasure, but lasting wholeness. It quietly encourages courage instead of dependence, wisdom instead of illusion, and authenticity instead of performance. One day, when you look back across the path you have traveled, you may realize that the most meaningful expressions of love were never the obvious ones. They were the unseen moments that gently shaped your heart, strengthened your spirit, and prepared you to recognize a connection that could only appear once you had become the person you were always meant to be. There are moments in life that seem impossible to explain with logic alone. You suddenly think about changing direction, ending a relationship, starting a new chapter, or pursuing a dream that had been quietly waiting inside you for years. Nothing dramatic happens on the outside, yet something deep within begins to shift. It feels as though an unseen part of your mind already knows what your conscious thoughts have not yet discovered. This hidden layer of the psyche operates beyond everyday awareness, quietly gathering experiences, emotions, memories, and patterns that shape your choices long before you recognize them. It is within this silent landscape that the deepest human connections often begin to develop. A soulmate connection is not simply about physical attraction or shared interests. It begins in the unconscious, where two individuals are unknowingly being prepared through separate journeys of growth. While your conscious mind focuses on daily responsibilities, fears, and ambitions, your inner world is constantly evolving. Every challenge you overcome strengthens qualities you did not know you possessed. Every disappointment strips away illusions that no longer serve you. Every difficult experience reshapes your understanding of love, trust, and identity. At the same time, another person may be experiencing a completely different life, yet undergoing a remarkably similar process of inner transformation. Neither of you needs to know the other exists for this parallel development to occur. This is not because invisible forces are controlling your destiny, but because genuine emotional maturity follows universal psychological patterns. People often discover compassion after pain, confidence after failure, and wisdom after uncertainty. These experiences create individuals who are capable of forming healthier, more authentic relationships. The unconscious mind quietly stores every lesson, gradually changing how you respond to the world. You become less interested in chasing approval and more interested in living honestly. You stop seeking people who merely fill emotional emptiness and begin valuing those who encourage mutual growth. This shift rarely happens overnight. It unfolds slowly, almost invisibly, until one day you realize your standards, priorities, and emotional responses have completely changed. What once attracted you no longer feels meaningful because your inner world has transformed. The unconscious bond between two people is reflected in this shared evolution rather than in constant thoughts or dramatic signs. It is the process of becoming emotionally prepared without realizing it. Many people believe love begins at the moment two strangers meet. But meaningful relationships often begin long before that encounter. They begin in the quiet decisions made during lonely nights, in the courage developed after heartbreak, in the patience learned through waiting, and in the self-respect built from choosing personal growth over temporary comfort. Each of these invisible changes shapes the person you eventually become. When two individuals who have walked these separate paths finally cross each other's lives, the connection feels unusually natural because both have already completed important inner work. The unconscious has been guiding each toward greater authenticity, making the meeting less about chance and more about recognizing a reflection of qualities that have been patiently cultivated within themselves over time. One of the hardest truths for the human mind to accept is that distance is not always rejection. When someone is absent from our lives, we naturally assume that nothing meaningful is happening. We interpret silence as indifference, separation as abandonment, and delay as failure. Yet some of the most profound forms of emotional protection arrive disguised as distance. There are moments when two people are simply not prepared to meet. not because they lack potential, but because they have not yet become the individuals they need to be. What feels like an unbearable delay may actually be preserving something far more valuable than immediate satisfaction. Emotional growth cannot be rushed, and genuine connection cannot flourish when it is built upon fear, insecurity, or the need for another person to complete what has never been developed within oneself. This is why silent protection often appears in unexpected ways. A relationship that never began may have saved you from becoming trapped in a version of yourself that still depended on external validation. A conversation that never happened may have prevented misunderstandings created by emotional immaturity. A separation that felt painful may have created the necessary space for both individuals to confront parts of themselves that could no longer remain hidden. Human beings often believe that every closed door is a personal loss. But sometimes, a closed door is simply life refusing to let you enter before you are ready. During periods of waiting, something remarkable begins to happen beneath the surface. You start questioning your fears instead of obeying them. You learn to enjoy your own company instead of escaping loneliness. You begin recognizing patterns that once controlled your choices, allowing you to replace unconscious habits with greater awareness. These quiet transformations are rarely celebrated because they happen internally. Yet, they are often the very qualities that make healthy relationships possible. Someone who has learned patience brings calm instead of urgency. Someone who has faced loneliness without losing hope brings stability instead of emotional dependence. Someone who has accepted their imperfections brings honesty instead of pretending to be someone they are not. Silent protection is not about avoiding pain altogether. In fact, it often allows temporary pain to prevent much deeper suffering later. Imagine building a house on unstable ground. It may look beautiful for a while, but eventually the foundation begins to crack. The same principle applies to relationships. If two people come together before they have established emotional stability, unresolved fears often become the invisible foundation of the connection. Over time, insecurity replaces trust, expectation replaces acceptance, and fear of loss overshadows genuine affection. What appeared to be love slowly becomes a struggle for emotional survival. Distance can prevent this by allowing each person to strengthen their inner foundation before their lives become intertwined. During this unseen period, every lesson, disappointment, and moment of reflection quietly shapes a stronger identity. Instead of searching for someone to rescue them, each individual gradually becomes capable of offering understanding, patience, and emotional balance. What once felt like an unfair separation begins to reveal itself as a quiet act of protection, preserving the possibility of a healthier and more authentic connection that could only emerge after both hearts had learned the value of becoming whole on their own. Many people believe that the greatest gift a soulmate can offer is love itself. They imagine meaningful conversations, shared dreams, unwavering support, and a future built together. While these experiences are certainly valuable, there is a far deeper gift that often goes unnoticed. Before two people are truly capable of building a healthy relationship, they must first become acquainted with themselves. This journey of self-discovery is rarely comfortable. It asks a person to confront hidden fears, old emotional wounds, limiting beliefs, and the parts of their personality they have spent years avoiding. In many cases, the most profound influence a soulmate has is not through physical presence, but through inspiring an inner transformation that begins long before two lives fully intersect. Sometimes, another person's existence, even if unknown or distant, becomes part of the psychological process that encourages growth. This does not happen through conscious effort or secret communication. It happens because the human mind naturally moves toward greater wholeness when life presents the right challenges. Difficult experiences often become invitations to examine ourselves more honestly. A painful ending may reveal how much of our happiness depended on the approval of others. A season of loneliness may uncover strengths that constant companionship never required us to grasp. Repeated disappointments may expose unhealthy patterns that have quietly shaped our relationships for years. Although these moments feel discouraging while they are happening, they gradually create a stronger and more authentic identity. Healing is not simply about forgetting painful memories. It is about changing the meaning those memories hold within your life. Instead of seeing yourself as someone defined by rejection, failure, or disappointment, you begin recognizing that every experience contributed to your understanding of who you are becoming. Emotional wounds that once controlled your decisions slowly lose their power as awareness grows. Fear no longer dictates every choice because you begin responding from wisdom rather than from red pain. This transformation changes the quality of every future relationship. Instead of seeking someone to repair your insecurities, you become capable of sharing your life without expecting another person to carry the weight of your emotional struggles. A soulmate, in this sense, becomes a catalyst rather than a rescuer. Their greatest gift is encouraging the conditions that make authentic love possible. Personal growth also changes the way you perceive the world around you. You stop measuring your value by how many people admire you and begin measuring it by how honestly you live. You become less interested in pretending to meet other people's expectations and more committed to expressing your true character. This shift creates an inner peace that cannot be achieved through external success alone. As self-standing deepens, relationships become opportunities for mutual growth instead of emotional dependence. You begin appreciating differences instead of fearing them, accepting imperfections instead of demanding perfection, and choosing genuine connection over temporary excitement. The greatest transformation is often invisible because it unfolds quietly through countless small decisions made over time. Every moment of self-reflection, every act of courage, every lesson learned from disappointment, and every step toward greater authenticity becomes part of the foundation upon which lasting love can eventually stand. Creating a connection rooted not in need, but in emotional maturity, mutual respect, and the ongoing journey of becoming the fullest version of oneself. There are times in life when ordinary events seem to carry an unusual sense of meaning. You glance at the clock and notice the same numbers appearing repeatedly. You think about someone moments before hearing their name. A book falls into your hands containing exactly the words you needed to hear. A stranger offers advice that perfectly matches the question you have been asking yourself in silence. These experiences often feel too meaningful to dismiss as simple accidents. Yet they are also too ordinary to prove anything extraordinary. What gives them their power is not the event itself, but the deep emotional response it awakens within you. The human mind naturally searches for patterns, especially during periods of uncertainty or personal transformation. When your inner world begins to change, your attention also changes. You start noticing connections that once escaped your awareness because your unconscious mind is quietly organizing your experiences into a more meaningful story. These moments are often described as meaningful coincidences, not because they predict the future, but because they reflect a growing harmony between your inner life and the world around you. The unconscious mind is constantly processing far more information than your conscious awareness can handle. It observes subtle details, emotional signals, memories, and experiences without demanding your attention. As these hidden processes unfold, they begin influencing what captures your focus. Suddenly, certain conversations seem especially important. Certain opportunities appear at exactly the right time. Certain places feel strangely familiar, even when you have never visited them before. These experiences can create the impression that life is guiding you towards something significant. Rather than seeing them as supernatural messages, they can be understood as moments when your psychological development allows you to recognize meaning that was always present but previously unnoticed. As you grow emotionally, your perception becomes more refined. You begin making decisions based on greater self-awareness instead of fear. This shift naturally changes the people you meet, the environments you choose, and the opportunities you pursue. What appears to be a remarkable coincidence is often the result of countless invisible changes taking place within your own character. A person who develops confidence will notice possibilities that once felt impossible. Someone who learns patience will recognize opportunities that previously seemed too slow. Someone who values authenticity will naturally connect with people who appreciate honesty rather than appearances. Meaningful coincidences often emerge because your inner transformation changes the direction of your life in subtle but powerful ways. The feeling that events are aligning is less about external forces arranging every detail and more about your growing ability to recognize connections that support your personal development. This is why these moments frequently occur during periods of healing, reflection, or major life transitions. They encourage you to remain attentive to your own growth, rather than becoming trapped in old patterns of thinking. Every meaningful encounter, every unexpected opportunity, and every seemingly ordinary moment that leaves a lasting impression becomes part of a larger psychological journey toward wholeness. The value of these experiences does not lie in proving that destiny is controlling every step you take, but in reminding you that your inner transformation influences how you experience the world, allowing everyday events to become deeply significant as your awareness expands and your life gradually moves toward greater authenticity and emotional maturity. One of the greatest misunderstandings about love is the belief that meeting the right person will instantly solve the confusion, loneliness, or emptiness we carry within ourselves. Many people spend years searching for someone who will finally make them feel complete, believing that happiness begins only when another person enters their life. This expectation places an impossible burden on every relationship, because no individual can permanently fill the spaces created by a lack of self-standing. Lasting love is not built by two incomplete people trying to repair one another. It is built by two individuals who have spent time learning who they are, facing their own fears, and developing the emotional strength to share their lives without losing themselves. Preparation before union is the quiet process that makes this kind of relationship possible. It is a season that often feels lonely because its purpose is inward rather than outward. During this time, life gradually removes distractions that prevent genuine growth and replaces them with experiences that encourage deeper self-awareness. Challenges become opportunities to discover resilience. Failure becomes a teacher of humility. Solitude becomes an invitation to understand thoughts and emotions that are usually hidden beneath constant activity. These experiences may appear unrelated to future love, yet they quietly shape the emotional qualities required for a meaningful partnership. A person who has learned to value themselves no longer depends on constant reassurance. Someone who has confronted disappointment develops compassion instead of bitterness. Someone who has accepted their own imperfections becomes capable of accepting the imperfections of another person. This preparation transforms love from an emotional need into a conscious choice. Instead of searching for someone to remove loneliness, you begin seeking someone with whom you can share the fullness of your life. Emotional maturity also changes the way conflict is experienced. Without inner preparation, disagreements often awaken old fears of rejection, abandonment, or inadequacy. Small misunderstandings quickly become personal battles because unresolved emotional wounds shape every reaction.